This is a short tutorial on your observation hours. Your observation hours are mandatory. You have to do 15 hours in an approved facility. Your observation hours are worth 50% of your course grade. If you do not complete all of your hours, or if you choose not to do them at all, you will most likely not pass the course. These hours are very important so that you get some sort of grasp on what it's like to work in the radiology department and what will be expected of you as a student in the clinical portion of the program. When you're thinking about when you want to observe, make sure that you have varied times. You need to observe some in the morning and some in the afternoon, because not all of the exams are done all day long. So in order to be able to see as many exams as possible, you'll need to get some mornings and some afternoons. Transportation is your responsibility. This is an individual project. We won't be going to the hospitals as a class or in groups, so you're on your own getting to and from the hospitals. You can observe 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, no weekends and no holidays. And this is because liability reasons, insurance won't cover us if something happens. You also need access to a scanner for this class. Many of the documents will require a signature from you and or the technologist. So you will be printing these documents off of Moodle, and then you will be scanning them back into your computer, saving them as a PDF file, and then uploading them to the appropriate Moodle Dropbox. So in order to find all of the documents that you need for observations, you will go to the class on Moodle, and you will go underneath week 1. And if you look under week 1, you will see a folder, Observation and Journal. If you click this folder, it will bring up all of the documents that you need for your observation hours. The ones that you will have to print and scan as a PDF are going to be these two documents: your timesheet and exam list, and then your observation contracts and schedule. These two have to be printed because you'll need signatures and they'll have to be scanned back. The rest of them you can print if you want, or you can just look at them online whenever you need to. The journal, you will have to open it and type your responses in, but you don't actually have to print it, because you can type your responses, save it to your computer, and then upload it. Alright, whenever you observed, you can go to approved sites only. If you go to a site that is not on the list, then you will not receive any credit for the hours that you do. So make sure that you go to one of these facilities and do not call the hospitals. They know that you're coming. They expect students to be there observing. We have clinical students there. There's no need for you to call them. You can go to Avoyelles Hospital in Marksville, Cabrini in Alexandria, Hartner and Ala, LaSalle, which is in Jena, or actually I think if you put it in your GPS, it actually says Trout, Louisiana. And then the VA Medical Center in Pineville. Any one of these facilities is approved. I recommend going to at least 2, because places like the VA, they don't have any trauma. So in order to see your trauma, you'll need to go to another facility. Everything else you can probably see at the VA, but you won't see any trauma there. So that's why I suggest going to 2 places, and then that also gives you an idea of the different equipment that's used and the different process the department uses to run everything. Your dress code, it's strictly enforced. Technologists can send you home if you are not in dress code, and any instructor that is there with a clinical student can send you home if you are not dressed appropriately. You need to have your white lab coat and an ID holder with your student ID showing. If you have your own white lab coat, that's fine, you can use it. If you don't have a lab coat, we will provide you with one. You can see Miss Grimion. She's the administrative assistant for Allied Health. She is in Coughlin, room 101. You can pick up your lab coats and ID holders from her Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 or 1 to 3. Do not start going to her office until Monday, August 31st. She will not have the lab coats and ID holders until Monday, August 31st. So the second week of school, you can start picking up your lab coats and ID holders, and everybody needs to have them by the end of the second week of school so that you can all start your observation hours and get those done in time. Your dress code is business casual. You want to look professional, but you don't have to be in a suit and tie. Just make sure that you have on some khaki pants and a polo shirt or a nice dress shirt, blouse, no jeans, no flip-flops, no open-toed shoes, and no scrubs. Make sure that your hair is clean and fixed appropriately. Make sure that you don't wear perfumes or colognes that are too heavy. No crazy piercings. And if you have tattoos, just try to make sure that they are covered up, especially if they are maybe a little inappropriate. So in that folder for observations, you will see the timesheet and exam list. This is your exam list. These are all the exams you need to see, and this is where the tech will sign that he or she witnessed that you observed it. These two exams, the upper GI / BE, those are two different exams. You can watch either or. Hopefully you'll get to see both, but only one is required. And then the other fluoroscopy could be a small bowel or a modified exam for speech pathology. So once you see an exam, they will sign off on it. If you see a chest x-ray and then 2 minutes later somebody says they're doing a chest x-ray over here, you still need to go and observe it. Don't tell them that you've already seen it. You need to make sure that you see as much as you possibly can. You're going to probably see 50 chest x-rays while you're there, but make sure that you watch as many as possible and never ever say, I don't need it, I've already seen it. This is your timesheet, also in the same document with that exam list. You put your name and your clinical site, and then the date that you're observing, your time in, and a technologist will sign you in, and then a technologist will sign you out, and then you tally your hours over here. For your timesheet and your exam list, you only need one. So don't print one for every site you go to, and don't print one for every single hour that you go and observe. So keep a running tally on your timesheet and your exam list. So just print one of each and bring it with you every single time you observe. That way when you scan it back to me, it's just one document. And those two, your exam list and your timesheet, will have to be scanned back into the computer, saved as a PDF, and uploaded to Moodle. Your schedule and contract, also in the observation folder. This is going to be a tentative schedule. I'm going to need you to print this document out, fill in your schedule of when you think you may go. Then you're going to read the bottom portion and sign the contract. And then the second page is a HIPAA statement that you also need to read through and sign. Make sure you scan and submit it by the due date, which is September 4th. So by the end of the second week of school, I need all of these submitted back to me. And there will be a drop box under week 2 that says observation tentative schedule. Again, the schedule is just tentative. So if you put down you're going to go every Monday and Tuesday from 9 to 12, but one Tuesday you can't go, that's fine. I don't need to know if you have to change it. This is just so I know that you've thought about it and have some idea of when you're going to observe. So the observation contract and schedule, it's one document and it'll be 2 pages. Print them out. Up here, fill in your schedule. Read this statement that says you understand you have hours to observe, and you understand that you have to make sure you don't call the hospital, and then you understand that you have to scan your documents back in and submit them that way. Then sign, and then the second page of this document, these are your HIPAA acknowledgments, and this just says that you understand that you cannot interact with the patient, that you have no known exposure to infectious diseases, and that you understand that all medical exams and information that you overhear is privileged by HIPAA and may not be repeated outside of the clinical site. So make sure these two are signed and scanned back in the computer by September 4th. Some do's and don'ts. Do: dress professionally, show up, introduce yourself as an LSUA observation student, ask intelligent questions. Most of them are more than happy to explain what they're doing and why they're doing it. Observe as much as possible. If that means all you see all day are chest x-rays, great. Observe how they do it and how they interact with the patient and the order in which they do things. There is a lot to glean from every exam. There will be clinical students there. They're senior students. They will be there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you can ask them questions if they're not busy. You know, how they like the program, how they like actually being a student technologist. You cannot go in a room with a patient. You cannot provide lift help for a patient. Basically, no interaction with patients at all. If they are not busy, they may take you in the room and show you how the table works and how the two blocks work and everything, and they might show you the console and how all the exams are pre-programmed in there, but you are not allowed to make an exposure. So you can't actually use the machine, but if they're not busy and the patient's not in the room, they can show you how everything works. And please don't sit. We have several students who like to go, and when it gets slower, they get bored, they just plop down on the floor or on the bench, and that's very unprofessional, and the technologists take note of that. And so whether you think so or not, they remember you, and when you come into clinic, they're like, oh, that's a student that sat down on the floor the whole time. So make sure you make a good first impression, because they will remember you when it comes back to clinical time. Your journal. This is on Moodle, also in the observation folder. You're just going to open it up, and there are 4 questions, and you just type your answer underneath the question. Make sure you keep it in Microsoft Word so that it opens properly on my end and I can grade it. This is going to be a journal for your experience as a whole, not each day. So you don't have to answer these questions for every single time that you observe. Just when you finish your 15 hours, open the document, answer the questions. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just how your experience was personally. And then you will type your answers, save it, and then you'll upload it to Moodle in the Dropbox for eJournal, which will be in whatever week that's due, which I believe is October 26th. So it'll be in the week of October 26th that you submit this journal. All right. Your due dates. So your schedule and contract are due the second week of school, September 4th by 11 p.m. And remember, those will be scanned into the computer, saved as a PDF, and uploaded to the Dropbox on Moodle. Your observation hours and journal are due October 26th by 11 p.m. If you finish any of this early, you can submit it early. That's perfectly fine. Just know that I won't be grading them until after the due date, so I'll grade them all at one time. So September 4th is your first due date. That's your tentative schedule, filled out and signed, and then the HIPAA statements signed as well. Observation hours and journal are due October 26th by 11 p.m. Your grading rubric. This is just to let you know how you'll be graded on your hours. You get points for whether or not you submit on time, whether or not you submit your schedule, how many hours you observe, and how many exams you observed. The hours themselves are worth 50 points, and your journal is worth 50 points, so you have a total of 100 points for the observation section of the course. If you don't get to see trauma, that might not count against you, depending on whether or not I feel like you've set enough hours to observe that. If you only observe from 9 to 11 every time, then you're most likely not going to see trauma, and that will be counted against you. So make sure you vary your times. And I realize trauma is hard to see. Sometimes, it only comes in really late at night when you can't be there. But as long as you have enough varied hours and you've gone to a couple of different places and you still can't see trauma, as long as I see that you've made an effort to see it, then that one won't count against you. But everything else you should be able to see without any problems. So that's the end of the instructional portion of observation hours. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the discussion board that is under week 1. That way, if there are other students who have the same questions, they'll be able to see my answer to yours. You can also email me and I will answer you as soon as possible. So make sure that you get your lab coats and ID holders starting the second week of school and get onto your observation hours as quickly as possible so that you can have them done before the due date.